All right, MA Marignon, turn 47. Maybe we're going to see our anti-thug measures in action this turn. We also do not get attacked by elves, so that is good. We know that we can't get super heavily elfed, but still a little bit concerned about that buildup on our border. Bringing in quite a few more of our summons as discussed, doing some remote site searching, which didn't work out there. And then, also, right, we're trying to scry on some elves. And then let's see here, Dark Knowledge, Well of Darkness. Wait, that's not a Well of Pestilence. I was like, oh yeah, I knew this. I was like, no, I didn't know this was here. So I don't actually know what a Well of Darkness is. I'll have to take a look at that and see if it's interesting. Ooh, definitely did not expect this. So there's a magic phase attack on the throne on our army. Uh-oh. Oh, it's his god. Okay, interesting. We're not really set up for this specifically, but yeah, we have our full army here. And yeah, of course, we still have our Gifts of Heaven guys. Yeah, okay, there you go. So we do have super combatant. I guess we're just killing off wolves here. Why is the battle not over? Please do not drop any more rocks, guys. And the rock guys are going home, but they just haven't made it. Oh god. Whew, dodged a bullet there. Yeah, the rocks perhaps not my greatest idea. So we do manage to lose a Crystal Mage, probably due to Blood Vengeance. I actually pulled off a bunch of the magic resistance gear to distribute it out to other guys, since I was planning on, I am sending all the Crystal Mages home this turn, and I was not expecting getting jumped on by his Pretender. So that's not without loss for us. Obviously, losing his Pretender is fairly significant, right? He does have some Incarnate Blesses, although he doesn't really have very many Sacreds left anymore. So it's a lot less relevant, and he may have a decent number of priests. I feel like he doesn't have that many priests, so there's a decent chance we're not going to see this Pretender again. And yeah, the fountains, you can kind of, any Pretender chassis, if you give them a lot of paths of magic, can be kind of nasty, but they don't actually have very many hit points, the fountains. So they do have some physical resistances, but yeah, it's pretty hard. They're not monoliths. So, if you want to pull off something like this, better to use a monolith. But of course, he took a fountain for other reasons, no doubt. So yeah, that was a little on the scary side, but works out for us. We find a magic site, an enchanted tower. And yeah, I think this is where our, blood, our garnet, I can never remember, the garnet Amazons. So yeah, there's a bunch of gem sites here. We should probably put a fort here. No, we should definitely put a fort there, but sooner rather than later. And then we have a battle against the Independents. Right, I think these are some wolves, that took our province. I vaguely recall something like that. Yeah, so I think our Knights of the Chalice can handle some wolves. Not that I'm ever wrong about this stuff. In this case, I am correct. Oh, and this one could be interesting. So it looks like Jotunheim is riding out against that massive Agarthan stack. Okay, they're just poking. And poking with a mage, which is kind of interesting. That gets absolutely obliterated. Let's take a quick look at this Agarthan army. Now, we don't need to go into detail, but yeah, it's all the Mind Blasts. So he has a ton of Mind Blasters, which honestly at this point in the game are probably kind of marginal, just because anybody that can get access to anti-magic and at least has decent magic resistance is going to be able to resist a lot of the Mind Blasts, but still, you can't ignore that many Great Olms, and then of course an absolute ton of these cruise missiles. So yeah, you better bring some fire resistance, just some regular Agarthan troops who are pretty mediocre, as well as a bunch of his Sacreds, who, yeah, I don't have a ton of experience with these guys. It looks like they've been given the larger bless. I think the battle's going to end before we actually get to see a Divine Blessing go off, yeah. So definitely a pretty scary army, and a decent number of mages here. Yeah, this feels fairly reasonable, and I'm glad that's, not coming after me, at least not yet. And then we have an attack. Yeah, we're retaking our cave. This is the army that got jumped on. I don't think I put enough gems on, and this won't trigger gem usage. Really wasn't expecting the magic phase. We do have reloads on scouts, so it'll be fine. And then we actually get raided quite a bit by Bandar. This is, I think, the most we've been attacked by Bandar in some time. And actually doing some small raiding groups. Very nice. I approve of this. I think, should have been doing more of this, I think. But, who knows? People play different ways. We don't have any province defense here. So, of course, he's going to come away with that. Yeah, fairly risky in terms of, very squishy commander. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's really good stuff from Bandar. And then, yeah, probably something similar. This is where the thugs went. So yeah, these guys are really probably like the #1 threat remaining to us in this war. And like, yeah, our barbarians are definitely not going to stop them, although they are a little less dangerous right now that the bless is offline, right? So now like he's back to like, oh, it didn't take much of a bless at all. Although of course the magic resistance still relevant, but you know, not having the blood vengeance less relevant honestly on these thugs. And I don't think the regeneration is actually kind of relevant because our knights are like right at the point where they can do chip damage, and you know, really more like the occasional chip damage. So when they're regenerating, like that actually makes a significant difference. Although that said, they can cast the spell regeneration on themselves, and that might be enough regeneration so that like our knights, you know, it doesn't really change the equation like that much. You know, maybe if we were dealing more chip damage, having 20% versus 10% regeneration, you know, would matter more. I think this is on top of Fascia's fort. And it looks like Vanheim, you know, decided to jump off, and like, yeah, a lot of light infantry, a communion, like, man, it's like a medium commitment sort of army. Oh, interesting. And this is in their capital. So it looks like Vanheim was actually on top of Fascia's capital. I don't know if I noted that. So that's fairly significant. And then I believe this is a storm of Ashdod. Yep. And does he have not much left, really? Some casters, you know, but yeah, the dogs are so fast. They don't really give him a lot of time. And then, yeah, hey, speaking of rocks, I actually think that might have come from Ashdod. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, Aryu is able to come away with it without too much difficulty, although no losses, and there's potentially going to be some friendly firing from the crossbowmen here as well. So let's take a look and see what they lost. Overall, I don't think like too bad. Like, yeah, just 10 of their summons who are not super expensive. One of their sacreds, a couple lion tribe that he has for some reason. Yeah, this is a pretty clean storm, but you know, wasn't really up against all that much. So yeah, I think that'll be all she wrote for Ashdod. Let's see if... Okay, no, so Ashdod must have like a few, maybe they still have Nazca or something like that. And then we have some unexpected events. I'm sure these will all be fine. I have never seen this event before. Definitely seems like one that we could interact with, but maybe not. Maybe we just get a little magic. We may have to try to send somebody out to figure out like, you know, what's going on there. And then, you know, barbarians, of course. You gotta have some barbarians. And an abundance of rules and regulations sounds pretty fitting for MA Marignon. And then here's the barbarians, so we're probably gonna lose this province. Actually, I think we have a decent amount of province defense here. Yeah, because we were planning on building a fort here and maybe the temple. And this is like where we first got attacked way back when in the 2v1. And yeah, barbarians, they're not that great. Well, that's what I get for insulting barbarians. They crashed my client. It's actually pretty rare, at least in my experience, for Dominions to crash, but it does happen periodically. So, like, yeah, we actually come away with it. That's nice. We are somewhat busy, so we'd prefer not to have to send, you know, our soldiers on any more boondoggles. And then, unfortunately, we lose a scout in Phlegra's territory. I do think we were trying to cruise on top of one of their forts, so it does look like Phlegra is patrolling their forts, which is something to note. And then we build a palisade somewhere. Right, this is for the enchantresses, not the enchantresses that we found in the cave where we already had a fort. And then, yeah, the TNG fort, which, man, there's not that much in here, but we are really struggling. So we did summon some Great Eagles in nearby. We may go another round of Great Eagles because, like, yeah, we could use some sea strength. And I will catch you guys after the cut. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. First things first, we are sending the lanterns as agreed upon to Pelagia, and we will talk more about Pelagia in a minute. But first, Bandar. So we're going to send our main army forward on top of this fort. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably try to just crack and take it. I think this is where the majority, you know, of the remains of his army went. There is always an argument for going for the capital. The Tiger Riders can only come from the capital, but especially with the God Dead, I'm not as worried about the Sacreds, and it shouldn't take us that long to crack these forts, so not really too worried about it. We're already in position to go after this fort. Might as well just reduce it and take it. His thug group went over here, so we are going to leave behind pretty much all of our anti-thug elements, which is always a little concerning, right? So our army is going to be moving uncovered to this province. We don't see any other of his thug chassis, and I'm figuring that he probably doesn't have enough gems, right, to summon in and kit out another one. But that's always a little nerve-wracking. I think we are bringing at least like one of our guys that can soul slay along with us, with the army, just in case. We're also going to move out another one of our air summons here, just giving her a little bit of random kit. We don't actually have a paladin to put this on. The plan is definitely for her to, cast lightning bolts. But if all goes wrong, like, she'll be able to melee as well. So yeah, this is what we have like waiting for him, with a little bit of province defense. Like, yeah, hopefully enough province defense, to keep him busy, but not too much to rout us or to get in our way. So we'll see, right? Nothing ever bad has happened from going after those thugs. I'm sure this will work out just fine, but I do have more confidence now that we have that lightning damage available. And then this is his other raiding group, which happily, I don't know if I've talked about the assassins. I made some assassins just with like the Vineman item. I don't think they're going to be super useful for us. Like against the monkeys, they definitely have a chance to assassinate. So, happy days that I think the commander here, yeah, it's just like one of his priests, eminently assassinable. So that was lucky. We were just kind of moving him up towards Yis because I don't, reasons maybe. They can also act as scouts and like Phalegra. We might be able to catch like some Philegran like raiding groups of just like Heeled Axe warriors. But obviously like the tyrants, we're not going to be able to assassinate those. So like, yeah, we don't have a ton of good targets currently for these assassins, but this is a good target. And, in case it doesn't work out for whatever reason, like we're gonna send like a counter raiding guy down into here, just like fire elementals pretty much into all of these places, including like where the troops are. And so we should hopefully eliminate this raiding group, and we'll do like a little bit of site searching in places we haven't done. And yeah, I think that more or less covers the Bandar situation. We'll see how it develops, but I do think that this war is winding down, which is good, because I'm back now in the fearing the elves mood or category. So I remembered, of course, that, any air nation, this isn't really an elf thing, although most, maybe all, most, we'll go with most elf nations are also air nations. And if your air casters are also effective thugs, which in the case of Yis is definitely true, then you can just cloud trapeze a bunch of them all over someone's territory, thereby sort of mimicking like the stealthy raiding group. So getting elfed is back on the table. I was never really off the table, I guess, but I've now realized that this would be possible. So yeah, we're going to move our scrying onto the capital, right? We discussed, and then we're going to move a scout on top of here to see like if we get patrolled out, and if we don't, we threw on a shroud to give this guy spirit sight. So in case this trick, with the lantern and the stone sphere doesn't work, then, we'll be able to get eyes at least on the land with our troubadour. And then speaking of the underwater, I might have gotten myself a little bit drawn in. We'll see. I might have to back off. So Pelagia has been in contact with me a decent amount, and was asking like whether he could buy or lease these provinces off of me. And he currently doesn't have like any land presence at all. So I actually just offered him up for free, which, is not a great deal for me. Obviously, it cuts into the gains that we get from the Bandar War, and we're not really getting, for how much effort we expended, we're not really getting that many gains. But at the same time, like, we don't really need these provinces. And Pelagia let me know that like he's actually already launched an attack against Yis, which I was very enthusiastic about, right? Like obviously, I'm concerned that like Yis isn't really fighting anyone, and like maybe they're setting up, to elf me. But if they're busy fighting Pelagia, well, that's good news for me. And if Pelagia manages to win out, then like I will have a friendly underwater neighbor, which would be fantastic. So I think giving up like these two provinces, totally worth it. They're also like new to the multiplayer scene, so I don't know. I'm probably not cutthroat enough for this game, but I am cutthroat enough that we may not. It's not like I got nothing. So I talked to him and was like, hey, like would you mind in exchange for me, giving you this like sort of safe harbor? It's still pretty close to Yis, and I mean that's really all I have to offer in terms of coastline. Would you mind me picking up like I figured these two provinces, which should more than make up for this exchange? And Pelagia's response was, I could have all the land holdings like in any underwater provinces that I managed to raid. That definitely raised a bit of a red flag for me, because I was offering more just like, gem support, maybe like moral support, like some vulturing support. I'd be happy to fight an army or two on land, like for Yis's like land enclave. But as far as going underwater goes, like no plans for that. Like that would be, we can't really support it. Like even aside from the fact that I don't think it would be, it would definitely never be cost effective. We don't even have the resources like to waste on an inefficient, method. It would take us a while before we could really even threaten Yis with like underwater raiding. Coupled with the fact that Pelagia did say that they reached out to Atlantis, right? Because once he mentioned that, like, yeah, you could have some underwater stuff, I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, how much lifting are we expecting here? And, I suggested that he reach out to Atlantis, right, to see where they're at. And he said that he had talked to Atlantis, but it didn't sound promising. I am a little bit concerned that Pelagia is about to find themselves in a 2v1, which means that, if we attack Yis, we will be like inheriting a forever like sea elf raiding problem. That said, like, Yis is nasty, absolutely, but like as far as underwater nations go, possibly like less annoying. They're not as effective underwater as some other underwater nations, and they are very capital dependent. So there's, if they're going to get nasty about it long term, there's definitely things we can do to make their life really difficult. But that's definitely not the way right, that I was planning for this game to go, and not really, that wouldn't be good, right? If we get into a pissing match with Yis for the rest of the game, that's not going to help us. So we're going to try to keep our eye, like, scouting the underwater is not something I have ever really done or been good at, but we might get some underwater capable scouts going and, try to keep a little bit of a closer eye on this conflict, and, possibly we will jump in, right? The flip of not jumping in is like, suppose that Yis and Atlantis do eat Pelagia, right? Well, now Yis definitely doesn't really have a lot going on. That said, like, if they eat Pelagia's territory, that will give them a coastline that I do not control, and they may decide that, they want to attack somewhere where, their current like established land enclave like isn't going to be threatened, and also like, their capital is fairly close to me, or at least my territory, whereas like, these land nations, like, forget it, they're never going to be able to easily threaten Yis's capital, whereas like I maybe could, barring all the difficulties we just discussed. So anyway, all that to say that, Pelagia is fighting Yis, and initially like I was very supportive, still supportive, but now I'm a little concerned that I'm going to be dragged into a losing war that we're just going to have to raid forever. So we'll see about that. Otherwise, like, yeah, definitely haven't talked to anybody down here. This whole situation is still concerning me a bit. We are bringing some eagles up, I hope. Yes, some eagles, and we're doing 2 more summonings of eagles. It'd be useful to like have a good amount of siege strength. Again, we can't really support this, but after this round of casting, these ladies will go off and search some air for us, so that hopefully we can replace our eagles at some point if need be. And then we're doing a bunch of troop recruitment down here, so if Abyssia does end up attacking us, like, we'll have some stuff already getting recruited on the way. No crossbowmen, right? Mostly looking at infantry recruitment in most places, including like some cavalry recruitment. Do want to try to switch over more to the cavalry soon, but we do kind of need to build up our fire gem stocks. As you can see, I've not been doing a great job of not spending fire gems. Some of it is because we're at war, right? So I had to hand out some fire gems to the reload fellow, and like quite a few fire gems here. So anyway, infinite money, still the plan, just not quite there yet. Need to do some more fire site searching. We actually haven't found like a ton of fire sites this game. Other than our really lucky find early on with this volcano, we found some fire sites, but not a ton. I do think we are cutting some mage recruitment. Maybe not this turn. No, it looks like we are able to get, full mage recruitment this turn. So money's still in a pretty good place. We're doing recruitment up here in Mictlan. Like, yeah, Mix. Finally getting our scales in somewhat, right? So we can switch over to knights and, just rounding it out with a little bit of infantry. And then our fort upgrade should finish here fairly soon. Yeah, next turn, and then we will hopefully be able to upgrade into a citadel after that. And once all that is up, you'll definitely be feeling better. Still not 100% secure against Phlegra and Yis, but having a citadel here will make this a whole lot harder to take. I think we are building, we're building a lab here, right? So we want to start utilizing these Amazons. And I think that more or less covers it in terms of what we're doing. In terms of our scouting, it looks like Jotunheim is pretty much out of it. So Shiniyama here is sieging one of their forts. So we're going to go take a look at that. We're still waiting on this. This has been cracked. I'm wondering potentially trying to do a Dominion play here, because I feel like this fort has been cracked for a little while, but also maybe just waiting to bring up reinforcements. I suspect there was a failed assault there, which we should definitely be very cognizant of, because we're going to go not the same force, but the same faction, the same player, and similar stuff, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll have to be careful there. And then we should see a storm here. And again, Jotunheim's capital will probably be lost next turn. And still have a few scouts moving around in Man's territory. We're not really sure what Man's up to, and I think they're a fairly large power, so it's definitely going to be relevant. There's somebody that might come in against Abyssia, which we wouldn't love. They might come in against Vanheim. I feel like Vanheim is in a weird position, and they're very narrow. They've been doing some underwater stuff, which I'm sure hasn't really netted them all that much. They're also fighting Phaecia. We can see they're on top of a fort here, so we're headed over that way. So yeah, hopefully going to catch what Man's up to. Ulm is another one that we're not really sure what they're up to, but that's a little less relevant for us right now. And then we just don't know. Asphodel, as you can see, also a bit of a blank, which is more relevant. We are starting to move some scouts out of Bandar's territory down into Asphodel to try to get an idea what is Asphodel up to? So yeah, I think that covers our scouting, and I think that covers turn 47.